Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello, another Creative Cowshed. Thursday's just come round so quickly. And today, Charlotte, you're really in the hot seat for this one, so I'm just going to do the intro and then hand it over to you. We have coordinated in teal today. We didn't do this on purpose, but that's just how in sync we are for business. We just know what colour to wear.
We're putting ourselves under pressure now for future.
What happens next week? We'll clash horrendously. So today we are talking all about visuals. You can see from the title, visuals are vital. Talking about photography for your business. So if for those that don't already know, Charlotte and I both look after the marketing side of the business, but Charlotte is also the photography side of our business. Charlotte is a professional photographer. You do a variety of different photography styles or different types of photography, which we will talk about. But do you want to just give us a little bit of a whistle-stop tour of your photography career?
Yeah, so I started out as an equestrian photographer. I still am very much an equestrian photographer. That's how I dipped my toe in the water. And then it evolved from there. I did my time as a school photographer, which anyone else who's done it will empathise with me with that. It's hard work, but you learn a lot. So I've got the ability to take a lot of headshots in a small space in a very short space of time.
She's super efficient.
Which does come in handy for business headshots. I've also done a lot of event coverage. And when I worked at Hartbury College, I did a lot of more reportage style photography of when there were things on that PR was going out about. I did a lot of going around getting images to go with PR, or to go on the website, to go in prospectuses, just slightly different styles, everything, depending on what the image is used for. There's a different way of taking them and a different style to go with it. So that's kind of how I've learned all these different styles and done a lot of different things, but it all really helped to build a good experience base. So I've seen it done lots of different ways, worked in fast-paced environments, worked in environments that are well controlled in studios. And I've been very lucky to get lots of opportunities to do those kind of things. And now putting that all into practice to do photography for businesses.
Brilliant. So we obviously we help businesses with their marketing, developing their digital presence quite often, but also developing a physical presence if that's suitable. And the really lovely thing that we're able to offer is both the advice on what their digital presence should be, but then also we can help them actually create that content. And that's really fun because we're able to build that strategy and then actually deliver that content at the end of that strategy, which is awesome. But when we're talking about brand photography, what do we mean by that? What are we saying when we say brand photography?
So I think it's a term that's come around fairly recently because traditionally we talked about commercial photography, which has got a bit more of a corporate image. But I would argue that commercial photography is a part of brand photography, but brand photography is more of an umbrella term for all the images that you as a business use to represent your brand, wherever they may be, if it's in printed media like prospectuses or flyers, catalogs, or whether it's in social media, on your website, wherever you use imagery, that forms part of your brand photography and part of your brand identity. And as you mentioned, we work with some businesses in doing that initial stage of developing a brand identity and a brand strategy, and that then informs us on how images fit into that. So the stronger your brand guidelines, brand identity is, the easier it is for us to then go and create images that fit in with it. Yeah. If you know your audience, you know your values, you know what your business is about, then that helps us to populate the mood board and get imagery that backs up everything you're trying to say about your product or service.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that I learned when we started working together was the differences between a lot of the different photography styles that a business needs. That it's not just the beautiful aspirational lifestyle images that a business needs, but actually if you're a product-based business, it's really important to have your white background, what we call pack shots. And this was something that I learned when I bought my wedding dress for my first reception. And on the website, it looked cream, but when it arrived, it was actually pale pink. Do you want to just go into why that happens and what the problem with that is? Because it's something that I'd seen you playing around with, and you had this card thing with colours on, but I never really understood why you did it. Now I understand.
Yeah, I might have it. I'm going to be really unprofessional and
go and grab it. It's quite an interesting bit of kit. It looks very strange.
It's a very, very innocuous piece of kit.
Yeah.
But when you're talking product photography, it's really, really useful. So this is my little colour reference.
It's so cool.
So in essence, what this does is I take a picture of this before I take a product photo. And this has to be in a controlled lighting environment. So a studio environment where the lighting won't change. So obviously natural light changes if the sun moves through the sky. That's no good because you don't get consistent light. But if you're in a studio and you've got control, I pop this up and take a picture of that before I take any product pictures, because then what I can do when I process the images afterwards is tell the software to look at that, and it knows what those colours are meant to be. So it can then match up what the colours are meant to be with what's in the photos, and it creates a colour profile that is designed to be as accurate as physically possible to how those products appear. Now, it's not perfect because it portrays how those products appear in perfect white even light.
Yes.
So you take your dress out in summer or winter and it will appear a slightly different colour.
Yeah.
But it's trying to give you the best interpretation you can get of what those colours will appear like, which is so important because as you've personally experienced, it isn't always what it looks like on a website, and that can be a bit misleading. Yeah, and it's if you're buying something for a particular reason to match with something or for a gift, and you know that someone has a certain colour, a preference, it's important to get it right. So it's really, really one of those really boring technical things, but it's really, really useful. And we've talked about this before, and we interviewed Rhiannon from Garnet PR about press releases and the things you include with them, and having a combination of lifestyle imagery of products in action and pack shots with a cutout background that editors can then just drop in wherever they want in the magazine. They're high quality, ready to be printed, colour accurate. That's essential.
I'll just
press release.
I will just show like perfect example of where white background pack shots are really important. So if we're looking, so this is Country Living. So they will require you, if you want to be in their magazine, they will require you to have these white background product shots so that they can do these kind of cut out sections in the magazine, and this magazine in particular is full of them. So that's what we mean when we mean like product shots. And then your lifestyle is going to be more like, I love this is a spread about hot cross buns. I found
super,
but that's different. So we've talked about the very practical bit of product photography. Let's talk about the fun, the slightly sexier bit. Let's talk about like lifestyle and reportage. What's the difference?
So it's kind of open to interpretation, but the way I see it and the way we do it is that lifestyle imagery is your product in action, but it's staged. Like there's a degree of control. So you may have a product on a model, you've styled the set. So I'm snapping away, but there's intent behind it. So you're zooming in on your boots or your belt when you're stroking a horse, for example. We're in the equestrian rural industry quite a lot. So a classic example would be, say, a piece of jewellery. Yeah. And you would have a shot of somebody putting a bridle on the horse or stroking the horse, and it's zoomed in on the jewellery, but it's a lifestyle image because it's not a pack shot. That's essentially
not
how,
in a studio.
Yeah, and you can get product, static product images that are in not white background, but they're on like a wood effect background or a concrete effect background, and I'd still put that under product imagery. But when you start introducing more elements that tell a bit more of a story about the product in use and about how it could be worn, or that then becomes a lifestyle image. It's building a bigger picture. So they work really well together because you show your product clearly, and then it's really great to then see that product in action as an example. Now, reportage, to me, having come from sort of an events background and a bit of press photography, it's the environment that's different. So there's no control. So I might get given a brief saying, I've got a sponsored rider at this event, and I need photos of them wearing their belt that my brand has given them, and I want photos of them going over this jump and this jump, and just lots of people looking happy and giving an atmosphere of the event. That might be an example of a brief, but fundamentally, there's no real finite control over what's happening because it's a live event.
Yeah.
Same goes for things like behind the scenes of a business.
Yeah.
So you can rip some really amazing images just following somebody in a day in the life of their business and just snapping away, capturing them and what they're doing. So I've seen some lovely examples of this recently from farmers who, farmers who are sort of celebrities or got influencers, and just they're being followed around in the day-to-day life, working with their animals and things that they do, and there's no real interference. So the way reportage and documentary sits aside is that I wouldn't interfere in what's going on.
Yeah.
I'd just document it.
Yeah.
That's a really great way to get very authentic, natural imagery.
Yeah.
But you just have to bear in mind that you can't guarantee you'll get exactly the image you want because there's not that element of control.
Yeah, you're not necessarily going to have a really strict shot list, and you're not going to be instructing the person on what they should be doing and when they should be doing it.
Yeah.
And there is actually a new bit of kit that I think you might be quite excited to show if you've got it to hand or talk about.
It might be. Which
is, well, you go ahead and say what it is. So I think it's really relevant when it comes to reportage photography.
Yeah, I think you're alluding to the fact that it's silent.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go and get it. This is a great show and tell episode for the viewers at home.
It is, yeah. This is something that Charlotte and I have been talking about for a long time, and she now has it in her hands.
Got a new toy. And I've been agonising over the decision for about 18 months, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised about the brand. I thought you were going for a different brand, but
yeah. So this is my new toy. So
it's just like your old toy.
Yeah, it's very similar to my old toy, but different. So this is a mirrorless camera.
Yeah.
So the way it differs from my other camera is it's smaller, lighter, and it doesn't have a shutter that goes ka-chunk, ka-chunk, ka-chunk every time you take a photo. It can do silent shooting, which is really, really handy if you're being sneaky beaky doing reportage photography. Also great for weddings where you don't want to be noticed and distracting. So especially for people who are a bit nervous in front of the camera, this I think is going to be a real help because you're not so aware that your photo's being taken. And I do this a lot to Alice. She'll testify. She'll turn around and I'm there, just waiting. And
then you'll get one photo and then I'll be like this.
But if I can do it without her knowing, then we can get even more photos before she realises. And
the deadline for that new camera was actually my wedding reception in October, wasn't it? Because we were like, we're going to have to it's going to have to happen because otherwise you're just going to have all me in my beautiful dress going. But I think it's so true because actually imagery now is more and more important, and we're requiring as businesses more and more imagery. So there are a lot more people who previously wouldn't have felt the need to have their photo taken, who are having their photo taken. So making them as comfortable as possible and making them, and that's why I love reportage, because it doesn't feel too staged, and it's quite a nice entry into having photo shoots because there's not lights, there's not too much going on. It feels about as normal as it's going to feel.
Yeah, and if you've got a business that is quite naturally visual, so I did a few years ago of a equine chiropractor, and I just said, just work on the horse as you would, and I would just walk around and take different pictures from different angles, and got loads of really cool photos because of the hand actions she was using. It was really naturally very visually interesting. So it depends on the business. So things like us, where a lot of our photography would have to be more staged, because otherwise it would just be pictures of us sat at our laptops 99% of the time.
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult. But if you're, say, a baker, another great example, I can just be there, say
food producers.
Yeah, just go off and do your thing, and I can just document it.
Yeah,
and that kind of imagery is brilliant for social media, for your blogs, for your website, and it's something worth mentioning as well about websites. And there are lots of web builders and developers who also hammer this point home again and again and again, is you cannot emphasize enough how important it is to have your own unique imagery and not just rely on stock imagery, because you used to be able to get away with stock imagery a bit more easily, but now that it's so accessible, we've got like the likes of Canva and Pixabay, lots of free stock sites that are very easy to get hold of. It sticks out like a sore thumb. And also there's usually disjointed imagery, because you're getting from different sources, and it's American, you just don't know where it's coming from or what the story is. So if you have your own imagery done, you can in effect create your own stock library. Yeah, you can go to me and say, I've seen these stock imagery that I want to recreate. Let's do it. We did it for a driving instructor just before Christmas. I put some stock imagery on his website as placeholders, and some images we literally just recreated a bit of a twist, because that's a good image, but we need it to be you or your car or in this location that is representative of where you work, aka Britain, not America.
Yeah, and your car's the right way around.
Yeah, the steering wheel's on the wrong side. This makes no sense. So all those things can usually be recreated. Yeah, you have to just work with what you've got. So stock imagery has a place if, for example, you're selling daffodils and they're not in season yet, and you just need one to put on Instagram to say you're going to be selling daffodils. Great. And then next year you'll have your own images because you've grown them and sold them. But it's worth just thinking ahead and thinking what images I might need as well. Then planning.
And that's why we always try and do some strategy work beforehand to really understand, like, what do you need out of this photo shoot? Because you can have Charlotte and I, usually get me as well if you're really unlucky.
You're really lucky.
I'm very good at carrying stuff and having an opinion. But if you have us for half a day or a day, that could potentially be a lot of imagery if we've planned it really well. If you don't know what you want, or you don't know what you're going to do with the imagery, you're spending quite a lot of money on stuff that then might just sit on your computer and not get used. You want to know that you've got a plan for that content. And it's little things like, we went to Hardwick, didn't we, last week, as a bit of getting our eyes back in, going outside in the sunshine and getting the cameras out, having a play. And you were taking lots of pictures of like the flowers and interesting textures and surfaces. And that's because that's building up our bank of things to put quotes over, things to put testimonials over, things to use on the website. And if we know that's what we need, we can make sure that gets snapped at the same time.
Yeah, because it's so easy. If you've got an interesting textured wall over there, or where your location is beautiful, you've got great views, then let's take some pictures of them, because you never know where you'll need it. And this is something, again, I've learned from working in print and having photos that are going in magazines or being used in advertising, is the graphic designers love negative space because they want places to put their text. So you've got to think in the bigger picture. So I'll sometimes take an image 3 different ways to give that option. They could put text here, here, or here. And then they'll be really happy that your business has given them this opportunity, or that if it's going to press, that you can give press different options. I mean, we've had one client who's been publishing so many different magazines and newspapers now. She's absolutely on fire.
Yeah.
And not all my images, lots of different images from various different press events and lifestyle shoots, but she's got a huge bank to draw from, because she's in different publications that all have different requirements. She's got lots of different products, and she just keeps building this really big bank of imagery, so that when someone says, I need a picture of a field of daffodils with lots of negative space on the left, you can go, yeah, great, got one of those.
Yeah.
Or I need a picture of you doing this with looking this way to the camera, yeah, got one of those.
Yeah.
And you can kind of do it in one shoot, but it's something that you build up over time, really.
Yeah.
Especially in putting the seasons and other things. But
that's the other thing. So it's interesting, isn't it? Lockdown's been a big challenge for us in terms of photography, certainly even our own photography. And we've been, in the last couple of weeks, whilst we were waiting to be able to get back out and shoot again, we've been pulling some of our imagery from spring, like last year and the year before, because it gets to the point where you have a bank of imagery that you can pull on, unless you have like a dramatic change in what you're selling, what you look like, etc., etc. You can. There is no reason why you shouldn't reuse imagery.
Yeah, get the most out of it.
Yeah,
but definitely just think about what you're going to need it for. And we have the benefit of working with a lot of people on marketing and strategy as well as photography. And that helps us so much, because we know what images we're going to need. If we're planning social media content for 6 months' time, we've got an inkling of what imagery we might need. If there's an email campaign going out, we know. So those are all the things that we'll probably ask you if you're booking a photo shoot. What have you got in the pipeline? It could be 6 months' time, but can we get imagery for it now and save you a lot of hassle and stress when you need it?
Yeah. So what does it look like when I'm a business owner and I want a branding shoot for my business? What's the process? What does it look like?
So first of all, we would have a discovery call and just have a chat about, like I just said, about what your plans are, what your business needs are, and also getting an idea of sort of more in depth about your business, your values, what your services are, what you're selling, the kind of people you want to reach, the kind of people you want to appeal to, and what platforms you're going to be appealing to them on. So we've spoken to a client recently about slightly different imagery for different platforms, and we talked about it a bit last week when we were telling the story. You might tell it differently in different places. So we need to have a discussion about what we're going to be building into and what that imagery is going to feed into to complement the story.
Yeah.
And then the next bit, which is the fun bit, is mood boarding.
We've got a client who's doing that today, and she is living life.
I've seen the pins going crazy. So commonly just on Pinterest, because it's just an easy way for us to collaboratively add imagery that is aspirational, or there's anything in it that inspires you, whether it's the lighting or the posing or the outfits, or it might be the way food is styled, but just throwing everything in there. And then we start to build a picture of what we're going to want. And it's just as useful to find things you don't like. You bring things up and then you actually know, hate that, get rid of that, don't like this. And then that helps me figure out exactly what you want. And then when we've got a mood board done, then we can make a more detailed shot list. So that, less so for reportage, because that's a bit more ad hoc. But for commercial shoots where it's more planned, that's really important to make sure you get everything you need. So I love turning up to shoots where someone's printed off an A4 sheet and gone, I need to take all of these photos. Great. We can make it happen. Makes life so easy. So shot list is so important. get it all planned out beforehand, and then we don't miss anything. And then you know that anything else is a bonus.
Yes.
You get everything in the bank, you get your hero images, whatever it might be. And then if you've got a bit of time left at the end of the day, you can freestyle a bit.
Yeah.
There's nothing to stop that.
The more pre-planning that is put into into a shoot, the better value you will get out of it, because you will get more images, because you'll be like on fire, getting everything. You know, you'll have all your outfit changes or location changes or whatever planned out, and suddenly we'll go, oh, we've got another hour. Shall we just? And like, you know, for example, for a photo shoot that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks, we've got a contingency plan of, if the weather and the mood takes us, we've got another location that we might head to for some different images, if time and whatever allows. And I would think actually we're all fairly efficient human beings. I think it will probably happen. But yeah, and then so once you've had a photo shoot, I've finished my photo shoot with you. I've gone home. You've sent me some screenshots through WhatsApp. I'm ridiculously excited about them. I just want to see them. What happens then?
So that's when I start busily curating and editing all the photos, which usually takes longer than the photo shoot itself. I'm sure you probably won't be shocked to realise, because I'll generally whittle down the images into the best ones, because there was, you know, one where the dog's walked in front of the camera lens, or a bird's flown off in the background, or one's gone blurry. So I whittle through all those, get rid of the ones that aren't any use to us, and then I put up a preview gallery so clients can favourite and add notes to the images they want. Yeah, which is really, really helpful. That if you favourite a load of images and then go, oh, actually, can I have that picture of me where I look really great, but I prefer the placement of my coffee cup on that one. Can we Photoshop them together, add it in the notes? I go, yeah, sure, can do that. And it saves a lot of WhatsApping and Facebooking back and forth when requests are just put directly on the photos. If there's more in-depth things that need to happen, we can have a follow-up conversation about what post-production can be done. But once that's done, got all the final images. So once I know which are the favourites, I'll go and edit them a bit more. So I do an initial sort of colour correction and exposure correction. And then I'll just do a final check, maybe tweak the cropping, do a little bit of retouching, edit out background things that were
grey hairs and
fly in front of your face, that kind of thing. Then deliver the images usually via WeTransfer, because it's quite an easy way to send high volume of photos in one go. And I'll usually leave the gallery up for a while so that people, if you go back and go, oh, actually, no, I do want that one. Yeah. You can do that, because that's happened before. So it doesn't hurt just to have a backup. And I always back up the photos. I would never get rid of them. No. Because that's really risky.
And then, so one thing that we do with a lot of clients, and I think we're almost, I think, going to start insisting on this, because it's something I'm really, really passionate about. If you are going to spend a significant amount of money with us to have a photo shoot, I want to make sure that you are then making the most of those images. So a follow-up call where we actually review all the images that you've got and make sure we go back to that initial strategy conversation that we had and actually look at the images that we've then got and go, right, that's gonna swap with that old image on the website, that's going to be used for that campaign, that's for that event, that's for social media. Having then an action plan put together with what's going to happen with those images, so you don't just sit there and go, oh, I've got like 200 really gorgeous images now, what do I do? And that's something that I think is really, really important, is that you actually know what to do with them once you've got them, because we don't want them to go to waste, because it makes us sad if we don't start. We want them to see popping up on social media and on your websites and things like that, because it's stuff that you're really proud of. So we want to see it really living.
Yeah, there's nothing better than seeing it pop up in our Instagram feed a week later.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. We love that. So we're coming up to our half an hour. So is there anything else you want to add in terms of like the importance of imagery and brand photography? Any kind of like closing messages for us?
I think we've done a pretty thorough whistle-stop tour, to be fair. I think the key points to remember are that your imagery needs to represent your brand, which is not like anyone else's. So you need to think about that. That it needs to work for you and fit in with your story and your strategy. And then it needs to be of a quality that represents your business well, that can be used in print or on web or wherever you need it. And then it will serve you for a very long time. If you get it right, it's a really good investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like we as a business are a testament to that, because we go back and recycle and reuse and rehash old content all the time, because you know we've had the likes of Beth and Lizzie take those pictures and making sure that we make the most of them. Oh, we've just had a comment from Mike. Alice, Charlotte, are there any rules around using images of former staff in business imagery? That's an interesting question. Charlotte?
I think it depends on the contract.
Yeah.
So I've worked in places where in my contract it was written in that I agreed to have my photo taken and that any images I took or was in would be property of that business. So I'd say always check the contract, because usually, depending on the business, but if they're pretty savvy, they would have a clause to cover that off, because it's an issue that's arisen before. And it's not an uncommon thing to see that happen. But yeah, double check the contract. And if you can't find anything in it, the least you can do is reach out. Lizzie just piped up and said, get a model release. So
yeah,
if you're doing imagery for a specific purpose, so it might not necessarily be staff members who are under contract who've got a clause in their contract, got other people coming in, you get a model release done that just says, yes, okay, I'm happy for my photos to be used, and you outline how that imagery is going to be used, and then there's an agreement with what they're happy with it, how they're happy with it being used, and how you're going to use it. And you stick within bounds of that. So, for example, I've covered events when I was working at a college, and we had visitors coming in for a big family fun day, and we had to go around with model releases. If we'd taken pictures of them saying, can we use this in our marketing? Because they weren't employees, they were visitors. So we had to get express permission to use that.
Yeah. And I think, well, my advice as well, just from an ease point of view, Mike, I'm not sure what kind of imagery you're referring to, whether it is that sort of more reportage style or whether it is like team photos. If you are doing like meet the team on your website, I would have individual headshots that are shot on an easy to repeat background rather than having a team photo altogether. I know those are lovely photos, but if one person leaves 3 weeks after that photo is taken, it null and voids that photo, and then somebody new comes in. So from a headshot point of view, I would always have them shot on a repeatable background that then looks nice and uniform on your website. Would you agree, Charlotte?
Yeah, it's not the most exciting way to do it, but it's a good way to ensure repeatability and changeability. And you can get those big, broader team shots as an extra to that. But I think if you want to do individual profiles, it's really great just to have pretty much as I am now, neutral background, just nice photo, shows who they are. If the staff member leaves, replace it.
I quite like it on grey, like a light grey. We did one a while back that was on light grey and it looked really, really smart. But yeah, so yeah, model release forms, most definitely something to be very aware of. So good, very good question. So that, I think probably, unless we've got any more questions that pop in the next couple of seconds, that will tide us over for today. As you can probably tell with how much chitter-chatter there's been, we both get really excited about photo shoots. So we really love it, because from Charlotte's point of view, obviously it gets her to be able to do what she's she absolutely adores doing. I get to play with her new toys. And from my point of view, it really allows me to get a strategy to come to life. It means I can see the vision, I can see that transfer of sort of paper strategy to really amazing visuals and see it all connect together. How does packages offer work? If you can say, we can certainly say we're very transparent with how we work. So basically, from a photography perspective, most people either opt for a half day or a full day, and we can pop you across some information on that, or book a discovery call, and we can talk you through that, Victoria. That's absolutely fine. And next week, we have written down, we've broken a habit of a lifetime and written down what we are doing next week. And next week, we are talking to Evie Lewis, another photographer. I'm surrounded by you, you're everywhere. So we've got Evie Lewis coming on as a guest, and Evie is going to come on and chat with us about Reels and TikTok, which I'm really excited about, because I can fall down a TikTok hole for hours and hours and hours. And Reels is one of the fascinating new sort of things on Instagram that is yielding amazing growth results, but we're yet to have any form of insights on them at all. So we know that they work, but we don't really know how, or is there any rhyme or reason to them. And anecdotally, no, there's no rhyme or reason. So we will be talking about that next week. Victoria, what we'll do, we'll pop a link down in after your comment, so we can link you to either a discovery call or just to find out more about the photos. That is no problem at all. And yes, I think this has been a really good, hopefully a bit of if you've never had a photo shoot before, hopefully that will give you an idea of what the whole experience is like and why they're important. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think we've covered a lot today.
We have.
My brain hurts now.
Yeah, very much so. Cool. Well, lovely to chat to you, Charlotte. Like, we don't get to chat all day every day, but it feels formal. And we will be back next week to talk about TikTok and Reels with Evie. We will speak to you soon.
See you next week.